All right, so I want to get into some questions that some folks had about my last video, and they were questions regarding like what Bitcoin is, the heck, what Bitcoin is. Lost my train of thought. So they were questions about what Bitcoin is, why Bitcoin is important, where is the value in Bitcoin, like where's Bitcoin gain its value from, how to get started in Bitcoin, um, things like that, right? And so let's go ahead and jump right into the video. So the first thing I want to talk about is value, right? And when I say value, I mean value in terms of what makes what makes your what makes your money valuable, right? What makes a dollar valuable? Nothing. What makes a dollar valuable is the fact that the government says that your money has value. And a lot of people look at that and they're like, okay, well the government says so, then that's just what it is. No, that's not how money has worked in the past. In the past, your money, the dollar, used to be tied to gold. We can go even further back where money has been used as different things, salts, um, probably metal shavings, copper coins, gold coins, silver coins, rocks, salts, whatever. It's been used as so many different things in the past. But let's just go back like 70, 80 years ago. The dollar was tied to gold. And this period of time was called the gold standard. And during this period of time, the economy was stable. The economy was people were focused on growth. The government played a smaller role than they did today, um, and it was just overall good for America, right? And people, people in general. So one could ask, why is the dollar not tied to gold today? The dollar is not tied to gold today because it was removed and it was cut by President Nixon in 1971. He cut us from the gold standard. And there were things leading up to that to make it so that we were not tied to the gold standard anymore. And then that's when we got pulled into World War One. And after World War One, or once not after World War One, but when President Nixon cut us from the gold standard in 1971, that's when the fiat standard started, meaning that your money was not backed by anything. It was backed by what the government said that it was backed by, right? And so, why is this a bad thing? It's a bad thing because when your money isn't backed by anything and it's able to be manipulated by the government is able to print more dollars. You can't print more gold. You see what I'm saying? So when your dollar is backed by gold, you can't just be like, okay, cool, I'm going to print 30 trillion gold this year, or 30 billion gold this year, 30 million gold this year. You can't do that. Gold has to be mined. You have to go in a tunnel. First off, you got to go find the shit. Go in the tunnel, get your little pickaxe, go in there, boom, 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 get your gold. Proof of work. What that's called is proof of work. In order for you to get gold, you have to show proof of work. And that's why when gold was tied to the dollar, it was stable, right? Because you could not manipulate it, right? But when your dollar is tied to nothing, it's tied to what the government says, they're able to print more money. And so what does that mean? When they're able to print more money, they're able to inflate the economy. They're able to inflate the currency, right? So as things go up, as your currency goes up in value, right? Things go up. The price of this water bottle went up. The price of this coat have gone up. Price of my shirt, my clothes, your underwear, whatever you have, goes up over time, right? Because of inflation. And what goes down? Your purchasing power goes down. Purchasing power is how much you're able to buy with the dollars that you have, right? If you have $100 today and it buys you, I don't know, it buys you a pair of headphones or not a pair of headphones, but say it buys you like, I don't know, a couple things from the grocery store for a couple $100. And then 20 years later, $100 only gets you one thing from the grocery store. That means your purchasing power has gone down in time, right? And that's what's happening right now. Think about this. Back in the day, my granddad could buy a house for maybe like $5,000, $10,000, $12,000 maybe, or whatever, right? Maybe in like what, 1940, 1930, 1960 maybe, somewhere around there. He could buy a house for $5,000, $10,000. Today, that same house would be worth maybe like $500,000, maybe $800,000, right? So it's gone up in value in dollar terms, right? But when you think about it, say he puts $5,000 away from me, right, to buy my house 20 years later, because he bought his house for $5,000. I'm not going to be able to buy a house for $5,000. I'm going to be able to buy, I don't know, that's a down payment for a car. I could buy a car. I could put a down payment on a car for $5,000. I can't buy a house for $5,000. You see what I'm saying? So the purchasing power of your money is being stolen from you, right? So where does Bitcoin kind of come into play with all this? Bitcoin comes into play with all this because, or not because, but it is a currency that is not able to be manipulated or inflated, right? So when I say that, I'm saying that the government cannot inflate Bitcoin. They can't control it, right? And so some people are probably right now sitting there saying things like, okay, well, what's a big question I always hear? Oh, what if the government blocks or hacks Bitcoin or something like that, controls it? People have been trying to hack the Bitcoin network for years, since it came out. There have been multiple attempts, nothing has stopped it. What if the internet goes out? All your Bitcoin is gone. If the internet goes out, we're all fucked, because your money today is digital. So, and nobody's going to want your dollars when the internet goes out. You see what I'm saying? There's going to be barter. We would barter with each other. We would give each other water for medicine or whatever. You know, like that conversation is irrelevant. You know, so it's things like that, right? And then we can kind of get into like why Bitcoin has value, right? Why does your Bitcoin have value? One, to a lot of people who understand money, if they know that it can't be manipulated, it can't be inflated, right? That's a big one, right? You can't inflate Bitcoin, right? You cannot control it. It is decentralized. Decentralization means that it cannot be controlled by one entity. Centralization means that it can be controlled by an entity, i.e. the United States dollar, right? So, with that being said, Bitcoin also gains its value from the fact that it has all those same properties that gold has, right? Except for it's better. It's digital, right? So it's portable. I can give you Bitcoin today in 3 seconds if you wanted it. I can give you 10 sats in 3 seconds. If you really needed it, I can send it to you. Very portable. You cannot transport gold as easily. If you go into another country with a bar of gold, you're going to get arrested and they're going to steal your gold and you're never going to see it again. Bitcoin is fungible, meaning that one Bitcoin is equal to one Bitcoin. Kind of more the same as gold. 1 ounce of gold is equal to 1 ounce of gold, right? It's divisible. Gold can be divisible, but it's a little harder. Bitcoin is divided into what's called Satoshis. So to make this very simple and very easy, there are 100 million Satoshis for 1 Bitcoin, okay? So 1 Bitcoin equals 100 million Satoshis. 2 Bitcoin equals 200 million Satoshis. 3 Bitcoin equals 300 million Satoshis, so on and so forth. Okay, got it? Makes sense? And then, you can break it down from there. So it's divisible, it's durable. Bitcoin it's electronic. You can't break it, you can't erode it, you can't destroy it in any type of way. Gold is the same way, right? But Bitcoin is just a little bit better because it's electronic and you can't destroy it, right? And can it be used as a medium of exchange? Yes, it can. A medium of exchange is simply, can I give you Bitcoin for a good or service? Absolutely, 100%. I just said that earlier. Gold is the same way. It just operates a little differently. Bitcoin does it better though. It can be used as a store of value. Gold absolutely can be used as a store of value. Bitcoin can be used as a store of value. I use it as a store of value today, right? Meaning that can I save Bitcoin and watch my life get cheaper, right? Watch my investment go up and my life become cheaper. Absolutely. People have done that since since it came out in 2009, and those people today are probably like millionaires, billionaires, trillionaires possibly. So depending on how much Bitcoin they own, I'm sure there's a couple of them out there. But yeah, so that's absolutely possible. But yeah, so Bitcoin has value because of the characteristics that I just explained. Bitcoin has value because it cannot be manipulated. Like I said, it is a scarce asset, which is exactly what gold is. It's a scarce asset, and the government cannot use it to control the masses. You can't print money to fund a war that nobody wants to go to, right? You have to get people on board to do that, right? But that's something else. We'll get into that. So I hope that kind of explains how Bitcoin's valuable, and a little bit about like what it is, right? So, and why it's seen as a really good, as why it's seen as like freedom money, basically. I guess I didn't kind of explain that part. Bitcoin is freedom money because it allows for you to escape like the current system, right? The current system is fiat system, right? Meaning that your money is controlled by the government, and the government tells you what to do, how to do it, and they monitor how you spend it, right? Bitcoin cannot be monitored by the government. Granted, there are ways that transactions can be tracked, but if I send Bitcoin right now, the government is not going to see me sending Bitcoin wherever. They have to actually track that down. It's way more harder for them to do it, okay? If you send me Zelle right now, the government knows you sent me $200 in Zelle or $100 in Zelle, whatever. Like right this instant, they know that. They can see that. With Bitcoin, they can't. It's harder to do, right? So it's a privacy feature as well. It's a privacy money as well, right? So Bitcoin is, like I said, it's a freedom money. It allows for you to escape the current system. Because right now the current system works like this. It is a top-down sort of feature, right? So you have your governments who get the money, you have or who print the money. I'm sorry. You have your government who prints the money, who then gives it to these corporations, or who allow these corporations or other governments to spread that around and do whatever they need to it, or give it to banks, whatever, right? And then it trickles down from there, right? Then finally the money gets to the little guy, which would be us, right? Then you have Bitcoin, right, which is a bottoms up approach. So the people, I'm saying 85 to 90% of Bitcoin right now is owned by the people, is owned by the populace. And then from there, other higher entities like governments, banks, and other individuals who are in a higher status or whatever acquire Bitcoin. So it gives the power back to people like you and me, the average person, right? And a lot of people don't see the value in that. But when your money is controlled more so, when your economy is controlled more so by the people than it is governments, then you really have a say, right? You have a say in what happens in the world, because everything is tied back to money, right? Everything. It doesn't matter what it is. If you think about it, I can tell you how it's tied back to money, right? Like people's mindsets, education, medicine, transportation, obviously, politics, everything is tied into money. And our system is broken. So that's why you see a lot of broken things. Like, for example, have you ever noticed like how there's so many, like just like if you just take a second and just like breathe and just like look around, you'll notice how everything is kind of seen as like a lottery ticket win or something like that, right? Like there's nothing that's not like a gamble. So like, for example, right, think about this. You have trading, right? You you're literally, if like for example, people who trade on the stock market, they trade the S&P 500, they trade gold, they trade um, even other cryptocurrencies like Solana and Ethereum, XRP, whatever, right? All of these things are seen as investments, right? But in reality, they're all speculative. And speculative means that you're hoping that it'll go up, right? You're not sure that it's going to go up, but you're hoping that it's going to go up. And a lot of people can say this about Bitcoin, but in the past, it's shown that it's a very over years, it's a very stable, I guess, investment, right? All these other things that I mentioned are not stable investments. You put your money in there, gambling, hoping that it's going to go up, but it doesn't, or maybe it does, or it doesn't. But if you look around, like everything is kind of set up like that, and it's because of how our system is broken. So like you have, like I said, all those things I mentioned. So like S&P 500 investing, you have cryptocurrencies, you have you got casinos, you have like all these online betting platforms, Prize Picks, all this other crazy stuff. And it's all a gamble, right? It's all a gamble because there's nothing set in stone for you to put your money in and watch it grow over time, right? You have to figure out how to get these get rich quick schemes, like out of your head and like try to make yourself rich. That's what everybody's so focused on. But Bitcoin fixes that mindset, right? It fixes the way it fixes the way that is, right? And it does that by allowing for people to just put your money in Bitcoin, put $100 in Bitcoin, put $1,000 in Bitcoin, put whatever amount of money in Bitcoin per month, watch it grow over the years, and your life gets easier after that. You don't have to hope and beg and pray, or do the same, or invest that money for 50 years and then you're able to retire. You can do it in 10, 20, you can do it in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. You can do it in 5 years, depending on how much you put up, Like, it is something that can change your life very, very quickly. But at the end of the day, everybody buys Bitcoin or gets into Bitcoin whenever they're ready. So, yeah, I hope that was a good explanation. I think it was. To me, it sounded like it was, but we'll see. And the last thing, how do you get into Bitcoin? Like, how do you get started, right? So it's so many different ways to get started into Bitcoin. You can buy Bitcoin on Cash App. You can buy Bitcoin on what's that dang app called? Robinhood. You can buy Bitcoin on PayPal, I'm pretty sure. There's so many different apps. But I personally tell people, you want to start off with a Bitcoin only app. One that I like, or two that I like, are Swan and Strike. I would prefer that beginners get on Swan first, because they have educational resources that if you are interested enough, and I hope you are, you'll go in and you'll read those, and they kind of give you an even deeper understanding of Bitcoin. A lot of the stuff that I talked about, you'll see. And then once you go down that rabbit hole and you start, you start looking at, some of the some of the content and resources that I've talked about in the past, you will begin to understand a lot of what I talked about here today. But yeah, and then I guess I can just finish off with why everybody should buy Bitcoin. I don't think I have to say too much. I think everybody should buy Bitcoin because it makes your life easier. That's it. Point blank, period. Like, I don't tell people to buy Bitcoin because, I'm waiting on you to buy Bitcoin so my Bitcoin can go up. That's not how it works. Bitcoin goes up because it's just a good asset. It's the ultimate asset, actually. Like, once you get in and you understand what's going on in the world, you understand Bitcoin. That's what it is. You have to go back and do the research. You have to understand what's going on with the money in order to understand what Bitcoin is. Once you understand what's going on with the money, you'll understand what Bitcoin is. I can't stress that enough, because that's literally what it is. Like, if you don't truly understand what's going on with your money, you're not going to understand Bitcoin. You're not going to buy it. I would never recommend somebody go in, buy Bitcoin, and just do that, because you're never going to know what you're holding. It's important to know what Bitcoin is so that you can understand, that you're holding freedom money. You're holding your escape. Like, you don't have to be in the rat race anymore. You don't have to work as hard anymore. And, I tell my family and friends all the time, buy Bitcoin. But before you buy it, go research it. Go read a book. This is a book right here I'm reading right now. Broken Money by Lynn Allen. It's dope. But yeah, I hope that this was good enough explanation for everybody. And yeah, I appreciate you all for tuning in. Thank you.